If you choose the wrong Medicare plan when you first sign up, you're stuck forever. Now, I talk to countless people starting Medicare every day, and I hear this a lot. And I want to dispel this myth that when you choose your Medicare coverage, you are locked in forever, because it's simply not true. But in order to understand why it isn't true, we're going to have to break down a couple definitions about guaranteed issue rights, Medicare Advantage versus Medigap or Medicare Supplement, all of which we're going to be covering today in this video. So number one, let's talk a little bit about Medicare Advantage versus Medicare Supplement. That's going to be the first important concept to understand here. Medicare Advantage is also known as Part C of Medicare, and this is essentially when a private insurance company replaces government traditional Medicare with its own managed care plan. And so when you join a Part C plan, you're essentially moving from the traditional Medicare system over to a private insurance company's plan, who's now going to manage all of your care and all of your benefits. The alternative to this is what's known as a Medicare Supplement. This is also known as Medigap. And what this is the easiest way to think of it, is it's a gap plan. It's a gap plan. It's a supplemental to traditional Medicare. So you do not leave the traditional Medicare system. You keep traditional Medicare and you supplement it with a Medigap policy. Both Medicare Supplement and Medicare Advantage have really one primary purpose, which is to cap your annual health and medical and hospital exposure, because with original Medicare on its own, you have an uncapped amount that you could be responsible for in terms of hospital and medical costs. Now I'm gonna get into some of the Medicare rules. I'm gonna try to keep things very simple and to the point. And I first wanna talk about, well, how does getting either one of these plans actually work? Well, when you first turn 65, you have the ability to get either plan without having to go through any sort of underwriting or answering health questions, whether that's a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare Supplement. And so as long as you're within generally 3 to 6 months of your 65th birthday, or if you're working and coming off of a group insurance plan, as long as you're within a certain number of days of your group health insurance plan, you can switch to either one of these without any sort of health check or health questioning. Now, what happens outside of this window, outside of this 3 to 6 month window around your 65th birthday, or that window around when you retire and lose group insurance? Well, at that point, with Medicare Advantage, the only other time to enroll into an Advantage plan is going to be during the annual enrollment period, which starts October 15th of every year and runs through December 7th. This is not the case with a Medicare Supplement plan. So with Medigap, you have to be healthy enough, meaning you don't have a severe enough pre-existing condition to qualify to switch to a Medicare Supplement if you're outside of that very specific 6-month window around your 65th birthday or around your retirement date when you lose group insurance. I'm actually going to read you this specific verbiage directly from the Medicare site, which says, in most cases, you won't have a right under federal law to switch Medigap policies, that includes adding a Medigap policy, unless you're within your 6-month Medigap open enrollment period, or you're eligible under a specific situation or guaranteed issue right. And this essentially means that unless you're, again, in that window, or you've got a very unique right to get a Medicare Supplement, you're gonna have to go through health qualifications in order to switch. So to answer everybody's question, the burning question of, can I switch plans if I want? The answer is absolutely yes, but you have to be healthy enough to do it if you're going from a Medicare Advantage plan to a Medicare Supplement plan. So let's look at a couple examples. Let's say John signs up for a Medicare Advantage plan when he first turns 65. He thinks that's the best option, or maybe that's the only option he was told about. That's a pretty common scenario. But again, he thinks that that's gonna be a good option for him. And we fast forward 3 years, he's 68 years old now, and he's got a bunch of friends telling him that a Medicare Supplement policy is going to be a better option for him. And so he's curious, he does the research, he thinks it's going to make sense to switch. And in his annual enrollment period, October 15th through December 7th, he says, I'm gonna drop my Medicare Advantage plan. So starting January 1st, he's going to be on traditional straight Medicare again. And he also makes the decision that he's going to go out and buy a Medicare Supplement plan. Now remember, based on the rules for Medicare, the only time he can buy it without answering health questions is going to be in that 6-month window around his birthday. So what does he do? Well, he'll have to go through the health underwriting process, answer health questions about pre-existing conditions, about medications, about upcoming doctor's appointments or surgeries, and he'll have to qualify for coverage based on the answers to those questions. And it is very well possible if he has a major diagnosis, if he has a major upcoming surgery, if he's actively receiving physical therapy or takes an expensive medication, it is entirely possible that he has declined for Medicare supplement coverage. Now let's look at that same scenario, but let's assume that person is perfectly healthy. They take no medications, they don't have any pre-existing conditions, and they see the doctor once per year for their routine wellness check. They most likely will have no problem applying for a Medicare supplement plan and being approved. And so what that means is they would have effectively been able to switch from a Medicare Advantage plan to a Medigap plan starting the first of the next year because they switched during that enrollment period. And so they didn't get stuck in the initial plan, unlike what a lot of people think. So you can see here the key difference is really health. If you're healthy, you usually will have no problem switching to a Medicare supplement plan. If you're unhealthy, that is where issues arise. And that is where when I'm consulting with a client, when I'm talking to them about what coverage options are available, and I know they've got a pre-existing condition, or maybe they've had a cancer diagnosis in the last year and a half, or maybe they're taking a couple of super expensive, super specialty medications that I know are gonna flag that particular carrier system and probably lead to a decline. My recommendation is typically going to be to start with a Medicare supplement plan because you know for sure you can get it when you first turn 65. And at any point in the future, if you ever decide to switch to Advantage, well, it's as easy as waiting until the enrollment period and making the switch. But going the other direction, starting with an Advantage plan with tons of pre-existing conditions, and then trying to switch to a supplemental plan in the future is where people get into trouble. So I hope this would have brought you a little bit of clarity, and I guess the underlying message of this video is really know your situation. If you're really healthy and you don't feel like health is going to be an issue to qualify for a Medicare supplement if you wanted to switch, by all means you can start with Medicare Advantage, and as a matter of fact, that's probably the more cost-effective option for you. Now, if you're the type of person that A, has pre-existing conditions, or B, just generally wants like the best health insurance and doesn't want to risk not being able to get it in the future because of a health condition, you're probably going to lean towards starting with a Medicare supplement plan, giving yourself flexibility to start with a higher tier of coverage, and you always have the option to switch to an Advantage plan or something else in the future. So I hope this was helpful, and always remember, do your research, understand your options, and we are always here to help you make Medicare simple.